brought to you by Logos Public Charter School's Community Garden Program. This is our 8th video, Garden Gazette number 8. And the purpose of these videos is to connect you with nature every day. So today we are going to combine gardening with Native American folklore, specifically the story of the Three Sisters. If you haven't heard this story before, you are in for a treat. So first things first, what is folklore? What is a legend? So I want you to pause the video right now and talk to your family or whoever you're watching this video with, and talk to them a little bit about what you know about folklore and legends. Welcome back. A legend is a way of passing stories from one generation to the next. Legends are important to many Native American cultures across our continent and around the world. Today, we are going to be looking at the story of the Three Sisters, which focuses on the agriculture and food production used by Native Americans, and specifically 3 crops that were frequently planted together: corn, beans, and squash. So first we're going to look at those 3 crops a little bit more closely. All right, so the first part of our lesson today is looking at the 3 plants: corn, beans, and squash. So you're going to need this Three Sisters investigation sheet, which is accompanying to this video. And the first things first is to list facts and characteristics that describe each of the 3 sister crops. So you can either look at the seeds that I have displayed here, you can look at the pictures on the seed packets, or you can just look up pictures online to see how these plants grow. So take a moment to fill out this chart and list the 3 characteristics that you can see for these plants. Now that you've come up with your facts and characteristics to describe corn, beans, and squash, it's time to listen to our Native American legend. So as we read this story, listen for characteristics of the 3 sisters, Sister 1, Sister 2, and Sister 3, and write down any characteristics that you can think of as far as how they look, how they act, as we progress through the story. The following story, entitled The Three Sisters, was recorded by Lois Thomas of Cornwall Island, Canada. It is one of a collection of legends compiled by students at Centennial College, Toronto, Canada. Out of respect to Native culture, we ask that you share the legend in a spirit of respect. Once upon a time, very long ago, there were 3 sisters who lived together in a field. These sisters were quite different from one another in their size and also in their way of dressing. One of the 3 was a little sister, so young she could only crawl at first, and she was dressed in green. The second of the 3 wore a frock of bright yellow, and she had a way of running off by herself when the sun shone and the soft wind blew in her face. The third was the eldest sister, standing always very straight and tall above the other sisters and trying to guard them. She wore a pale green shawl, and she had long yellow hair that tossed about her head in the breeze. There was only one way in which the 3 sisters were alike. They loved one another very dearly, and they were never separated. They were sure they would not be able to live apart. After a while, a stranger came to the field of the 3 sisters, a little Indian boy. He was as straight as an arrow and fearless as the eagle that circled the sky above his head. He knew the way of talking to the birds and the small brothers of the earth, the shrew, the chipmunk, and the young foxes. And the 3 sisters, the one who was just able to crawl, the one in the yellow frock, and the one with the flowing hair, were very much interested in the little Indian boy. They watched him fit his arrow in his bow, saw him carve a bowl with his stone knife, and wondered where he went at night. Late in the summer of the first coming of the Indian boy to their field, one of the 3 sisters disappeared. This was the youngest sister in green, the sister who could only creep. She was scarcely able to stand alone in the field unless she had a stick to which she clung. Her sisters mourned for her until the fall, but she did not return. Once more, the Indian boy came to the field of the 3 sisters. He came in to gather reeds at the edge of a stream nearby to make arrow shafts. The two sisters who were left watched him and gazed with wonder at the prints of his moccasins in the earth that marked his trail. That night, the second of the sisters left, the one that was dressed in yellow and who always wanted to run away. She left no mark of her going, but it may have been that she set her feet in the moccasin tracks of the little boy. Now, there was but one of the sisters left. Tall and straight she stood in the field, not once bowing her head with sorrow, but it seemed to her that she could not live there alone. The days grew shorter and the nights were colder. Her green shawl faded and grew thin and old. Her hair, once long and golden, was tangled by the wind. Day and night she sighed for her sisters to return to her, but they did not hear her. Her voice, when she tried to call to them, was low and plaintive like the wind. But one day, when it was the season of the harvest, the little Indian boy heard the crying of the third sister who had been left to mourn there in the field. He felt sorry for her, and he took her in his arms and carried her to the lodge of his father and mother. Oh, what a surprise awaited her there! Her two lost sisters were there in the lodge of the little Indian boy, safe and very glad to see her. They had been curious about the little Indian boy, and they had gone home with him to see how and where he lived. They had liked his warm cave so well, they decided now that the winter was coming on to stay with him, and they were doing all they could to be useful. The little sister in green, now quite grown up, was helping her keep the dinner pot full. The sister in yellow sat on the shelf drying herself, for she had planned to fill the dinner pot later. The third sister joined them, ready to grind meal for the Indian boy and his family. And the three there were never separated again. I hope you guys enjoyed the story of the three sisters. Now on your Three Sisters investigation sheet, there is another question down here. So it gives you a chance to guess which sister was which. Sister 1, was she corn, beans, or squash? Sister 2 and Sister 3, and make sure you list why. And then I want you to think about this. In what ways does the legend describe how the three sisters support each other? So that goes straight into our next part, which is the science behind these three crops. So the Three Sisters companion planting goes back many, many generations, hundreds of years. Native Americans have been planting these three crops together for a really long time. So let me tell you a little bit about why these three go together. First of all, the corn. It provides the structure. Like in the story, corn stands up straight and tall. But however, corn requires a lot of nitrogen to grow. But guess who helps with that? The beans. Like many other legumes, beans have bacteria on their roots that actually pull nitrogen from the air and into the soil. So that will help our corn grow better. The corn also provides the pole for the pole beans to climb up. Finally, the squash. The large leaves of the squash sprawl at the bottom of our plants, providing shade and keeping the soil cool, moist, and weed-free. Finally, those three, once they're harvested and put together into a dish, also provide a complete meal for people to eat. So let's head outside and plant our crops. All right, everybody, welcome back to the garden. And today we are going to teach you how to plant the Three Sisters garden. Today we are actually only going to plant one of the three crops, which is corn. And I have picked an early sweet corn because on the back, and you should check your seed packet, it says, once weather is warm and settled and night temperatures stay securely above 55 degrees, plant seeds in well-worked fertile soil in full sun. So make sure that you get a variety that is good for your area and for your placement of where you're going to place them. So the reason why we are only going to be using corn today is because the corn is the structure for the rest of our Three Sisters. So we have to wait until our corn is about 5 inches tall before we plant any beans. So keep that in mind for planting into the future, but I'll go into the order of which we do things in a moment. All right, everybody, so once again, I have Mrs. Ray here to join me in this planting. So the first step that you're gonna do is you're gonna make a mound of soil wherever you're planting your crop. So you can actually even plant it in a container like this, but we're gonna plant it in our raised bed. So you're going to have enough soil so that it's about 1 foot tall. I think that's pretty good. And you're making a mound so that your corn really has a lot of room to grow. I'm only going to be making one three-sister garden. If you want to do more than one, you're going to have to make your mound about 4 feet long. But because I'm just doing one, that's good enough. So I'm going to make a little hole in the middle of my mound. And just to make sure that my plants have the best success for germination, I'm actually going to put 3 seeds in this hole. Hopefully one of them will germinate. 1, 2, 3. And then cover them back up. Alright, I've attached this document to this video so that you can really look back and look at the instructions, but I'll go through them really quick for you. When the corn is about 5 inches tall, plant 4 bean seeds evenly spaced around each corn. So I'm going to plant them around my corn plant. Here's my beans. About a week later, plant 6 squash seeds evenly spaced around the perimeter of the mound. So I might plant less than that, but I'll maybe plant 3 around the perimeter of my mound so that the squash can make its way throughout the bed. After harvest, you can make 3 sisters succotash, which puts together the 3 crops into a delicious meal. Thanks for joining me today in the garden. I hope you enjoyed our legend of the 3 sisters and how to plant one in your own garden. And I've attached a lot of resources to this video that will help you really dig into this wonderful story and this garden project. So if you like this video, please share it with your friends.